Hello, everybody. I am not DruidVorse. My name is Lojical. I will be commentating a series of little task segments and some other speedrun tech here for AM2R. For those of you who aren't in the aware, AM2R is a fan-made remake of Metroid 2 by the awesome Dr. M64. Shout out to him. I believe he is in Twitch chat right now. DruidVorse has been running the game for a couple years. This is a culmination of several little tricks and some very phenomenal playing from him. So let's jump into this. Our first segment here is the Omega Nest in a minute and 18 seconds. So I'll try to explain a couple things as we're going along. So the wall jump is a pretty common ability in Metroid. Drew's using it here to be able to climb up the walls a little bit faster than just space jumping because it restarts the jump and the initial velocity is a little bit faster. So we get to the first Omega. For those who haven't played through AM2R or just aren't aware, the back spot does 3 times as much damage. So Omegas have 40 hit points, and the super missiles that Drew's using do 5 each normally. On the back, they do 15 damage each, so 2 of those stacks up to 30, plus another super in the front deals 35. Because Omega's got nerfed in 1.1 to only have 35 HP. That speedball right there always amazes me. The off-screen hits are not super difficult to pull off, but they definitely help speed things along. And that is that. So this task shows us a fascinating little bit of a bug that was only discovered somewhat recently. This bug is called the wall jump zip, basically. Druid himself discovered it, and it's a bug where when wall jumping, if you destroy the block that Samus is wall jumping on, the game tries to snap her to the wall in the nearest, furthest in that direction that it first hits. So you can go crazy distances with it. And this is a comparison video, so I believe the old footage is on the left, the new footage is on the right. There are not 2 people running. This is comparison footage, so the old one is on the left and the new one is on the right to show how much faster the new one is. Next up, we have the Queen Metroid fight in AM2R any percent. So we'll see a couple of these today, but the basic idea of this is the fastest way to beat the Queen in an any percent speedrun. So that's the loadout that Druid has going into this. You'll notice that he's using bombs to damage the Queen, which is a strategy not many people are familiar with, but is pretty essential for lower any percent runs. I do not stream on Twitch, and I don't upload regularly to YouTube. If you want to link people to something, link them to the AM2R subreddit, as that's where all of the shenanigans I usually engage in are going on. Once again, Drew's using the wall jump zips here to move through these phases a little bit faster. And the information on the left is debug information about the Queen. The only one that's really relevant here is going to be the health, which is pretty close to the top, I think. So in this segment, we have the dual alphas. This is a bit of a newer strat, using the speed booster and retaining a shine spark throughout the entire time. This one's a little loud. So, for those who aren't super familiar with Metroid, if Druid gets hit at any point during this, he loses that spark charge, which lets him do the flying speed boost essentially. So, very very tight in there. Shout out to Saber230 Online in the chat. He is another one of the developers of AM2R, who did a very large chunk of the game's sprite works, including the very impressive Samus suit. So this clip that we have here is Druid playing through hard 6% in the tester fight. So this is a very difficult fight, even with regular items on hard. Doing it in 6% is just absolutely insane. He literally can only take one hit before death. If he gets hit a second time, the tester just deals so much damage on hard with this low of an item setup that he wouldn't be able to make it. And I'd like to remind everyone through this that while a lot of this is labeled as a TAS, that just means that Druid is segmenting it. AM2R doesn't have any official TAS tools like playing a ROM of Super Metroid would be able to have, so he has to play this in real time. So it might be segmented between rooms, but what you see in every room is him doing it live. Fantastically talented runner. It's always a pleasure to see a new upload. So for anyone who hasn't played through this before, you have to destroy that green shield with the beam before you can actually harm the inner core, and you have to destroy the shields outside with missiles to get to that. In this section, we have a very very speedy completion of the as they're informally referred to, the Alpha Squad, and yeah, it's fast. Underwater zips can actually be done directly across a room, like seen in this clip, and that was some fantastic Metroid AI exploitation. We now have a hard 6% Metroid Queen. This one is segmented, so you might see the missile counts change a little bit, but once again, each of these individual bits were played in real time. So you could consider this almost a theory TAS of what would be possible to play in real time if a person were absolutely perfect, which Druid is only just short of. Since this is hard 6%, Drew's being a little more conservative with the zips here. Can't really use them without expecting to take fireball damage. Either that or this one was uploaded before zips were actually discovered. One important thing to note is that the Queen's health does scale with your missile count. So this would take a lot longer on a 100% completion run, but there's still a crazy amount of skill required to manage to take out the Queen with this little ammo and without refilling. That's where the bomb usage comes majorly into play. Okay, so this was before zip discovery. So this is a full TAS of Area 4. So once again, like I said previously, this is segmented, but Druid is playing each segment of this live. So if you hear any little weird skips in the music, that's because he has to cut it properly. He has to try and recut it between rooms. So this is the first Zeta fight that we get to see on stream. They, holy cow, that one was fast. Um, their patterns aren't necessarily the most predictable or super consistent, so they can be a little annoying to deal with. But since this is pre-recorded footage, he's able to use the same, essentially the same random seed for it. Crazy, almost a double hit there on the Gamma. I think he got it to dodge into the super. The space boosts in here are insane. That's a very tight shine spark right there. AM2R has a nice long shine spark timer, but it's not. It's just barely long enough for him to get around that edge and trigger it. Aiming down while speed boosting, I believe, is just used to get Druid out of a spin jump, which alters the jump physics a little bit. And holy cow, that was clever. Standing actually a little bit inside the Zeta's hitbox to hit it with the super missile there. That might be pixel perfect. Little super missile shortcut there, which is the only way to skip power bombs in this game. So now we have a 100% collection tester in. Did I read 12 seconds? Oh. Oh, I forgot that worked. So in here we have a special trick with the Zeta, which I think was just kind of tanking that there. It's a very impressive kill. Oh, no, wait, this is the new one. Okay, going under is the difference. How on earth? Okay, even I'm still impressed to see that one again. The blocks in that room are not broken by speed booster, so that was pretty frame perfect to get around all of them like that. Okay, so this one still, if that looks a little weird, dude, that's because this one left a couple of the hitbox displays on from debug mode. So it shows where the Zeta's shelled at. Missiles would just bounce off within red and shows the actual hitbox in blue. Only 3 seconds? That's a lifetime in a TAS. My goodness. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jude, but the save skips is using the Halzens and a couple of the other creatures in the area to refill on super missiles, instead of using the save station to do that. So if anybody did catch it from the title, this is how you would route a TAS out for 100% completion in Area 4. So going to grab all the items along with killing all the Metroids. Yeah, 10 seconds is a crazy huge catch for a speedrun. That little trick there where you saw Druid using missiles to actually trigger the bombs early is a very intentional mechanic that Doc added in. But it's really difficult to pull off in real time. At least I've found it difficult to pull off. It saves only a marginal amount of time, but as we all know in speedrunning, a little bit of time can mean everything. That's what we call the Miracle Spark right there. Managing to dodge all of the spikes and maintain the spark in there is ridiculously difficult. The midair hit on the Zeta is really, really precise there. And also making sure that he doesn't leave the room before the missile actually lands and triggers the Metroid's death state is really important. Okay, so Avatar does actually have a speed boost stutter back there that you saw. Kind of similar to Super Metroid. It works a little differently, though, in that in Super Metroid you stutter at the beginning of a spark, and in Avatar you stutter at the end of it. Or, I mean, just before the spark starts. That was insane. Alright, so now we're getting to the Queen Metroid 100% TAS. So this one, as I said earlier, the Queen has a lot more health than 100% as she gets a boost from every missile tank that Samus has, and maybe super missile tanks as well. Amdrar doesn't get a full true TAS because most TAS most TASs function by using an emulator to essentially jump to each step of the game that is being emulated, and then offer frame precise inputs on that one. We would either have to program a utility like that in the Game Maker, which would be annoying because unlike with the emulator, you can't just run a calculation to where the end of the task would be. You would have to play through it all the way every time just to test the next step. There is a program called libtas, a utility for Linux, that can provide task functionality by using basically I think it's a compatibility layer, but we've had a lot of difficulty getting that to work. As far as the actual task utilities in AM2R, I've tried restoring them several times, but they're just really, really messy to work with. So this clip is Druid taking out the Alpha Squad in hard, which is ridiculously difficult, or in hard 6%, which is ridiculously difficult because you have basically no health at this point in the game. You also only have one super missile. So what I'm pretty sure Druid's doing is refilling between each alpha kill. which is pretty tight because there's 7 of them, and Alpha Metroids are notoriously hard to dodge. Oh, this is interesting. I didn't know this before. They apparently show up in different locations around the room depending on how many have been killed. Hit 6% fusion mode? Why do I get the feeling that Druid's already tried that? Oh, okay. I've just never seen them up in the corner. I always drop down first. And since 2 are a lot more manageable than the other numbers, he took out both of them at the same time. On this last run. And this is just proof of the file. Alright, so I believe this is the new theory. Oh, no. This is any percent with skips. So a glitch was discovered a really long time back by, I believe Satvara discovered it, a member of the amateur speedrunning community, where frame perfect pauses while going through a door transition can actually skip the door transition and let the player actually get out of bounds. So this can be used to complete the game incredibly early. So this run is only 9 minutes. And it's any percent. It could technically be 1%, but Druid might grab some more items along the way. See you later, Saber. Once again, the jumps in ammo count and sound and stuff that you hear, we do recognize those. Druid is splicing together videos for this as essentially a theory TAS / the closest one can actually get. Any percent without skips has not been shown yet. We won't be showing a full run of that. Druid is working on a run of that, but it was unfortunately not able to be finished in time for the marathon, which is why we're doing a showcase of these clips. But since I'm sure his channel is linked in this, you can hop on over to YouTube and subscribe to him and have that amazing video pop up in your subscription feed whenever he's finished with it. He also pretty regularly uploads clips of various bugs and little segments like the ones we've shown today that he's figured out or been playing with, optimizing, which are always a nice little short thing to grab and brighten up the day by watching him absolutely destroy this masterpiece of a game. So this run is pre-Zips discovery. If this run were after Zip's discovery, I believe Druid would actually use a zip to skip literally through the center of that entire temple, just teleport over to the other side. So this run actually could be a lot faster. Ancient Guardian does not show up because the Metroids were not killed. So there's some pretty big spoilers here for anyone who hasn't played, who hasn't heard the story of Metroid 2 before. So I do apologize if you're watching, and we're hoping to see that. You may want to hop away from the stream for a few minutes, have a buddy ping you when that's back. But this is where the blink out glitch, the zooming through a door, happens. So those pauses are frame perfect. It's difficult to see where Druid is, but he basically grabbed onto the outside and is now using the spider ball power he picked up to cling to the edges of the map and crawl his way over to another door. So because at the end of the game you come out a tunnel right on the other side of this room by the ship, so that you can leave on it, you're able to skip the entirety of the game just by using this out of bounds bug to get over there. And we are in. So Druid now has to skip through this door, transition again to get to the outside of this, because there's a bunch of crystals that he can't actually run through. So there's a lot more out of bounds navigation shenanigans here. It's a lot easier since he's on the top, though, or at least a lot faster. So now we hit the event trigger. The hatching of the baby Metroid sets the event trigger for the game to actually be able to end when you get out to the ship. So since we were able to skip down into here, the game is technically dead, even though all but one of the entire Metroid race on SR388 are still alive. In some ways, you could consider this the best timeline. Hey, Druid, have you ever tried to do zips off of the crystals? Is that even possible? Oh, can't wait to see that in the future, TAS. All right, and now to mix things up a little bit, Druid has done some running on the community updates of AM2R. So after the infamous DMCA happened, a couple of fans went um, basically created a usable source code, rebuilt the game, and have been adding some stuff to it. One of those things that we've added is a fusion mode, where X parasites have once again shown up on SR388, and Samus is wearing the fusion suit. It does have all the same settings as hard, except that you take 4 times damage instead of 2. So Saris in low percent on fusion is insane. I think it's pretty much a guaranteed one-hit death on this. And another fun little twist of AM2R's fusion mode is that there are actually core X for the organic bosses. So Ceres has one and adds an additional challenge to navigate underwater. If you don't have the gravity suit, this is nuts. And here for another fun little clip, we have the Genesis boss in slightly less than 9 seconds. I don't know if this particular clip is frame perfect or not, but Genesis does have immunity frames. Druid's just hitting him at the exact end of it. We have the dual gammas in about 6 seconds. And last but not least, we have the current work in progress version of the any percent no skips theory TAS. So this is not the full run. Druid is still working on that, but this is what he has completed so far. I have not even seen this footage yet, so I'm super excited to see all the little optimizations that are going on. And since this is using the most recent speedrun tech and such, we will be seeing zips here. There's a zip right there. The reason that you can do a zip off of a regular wall underwater is that it basically slows Samus down enough that you can do a wall jump and basically morph and turn at the same time, which then tries to snap you to the opposite wall. You can't do that in midair just because Samus moves too quickly to be able to do it. But underwater, she's slowed down enough that you can mess with the state machine. Fun fact, unlike the other two-dimensional Metroid games, the missile explosion in AM2R deals damage as well, allowing Druid to take out groups of enemies at the same time. Some more crazy impressive zips across that room. And right there, holy cow. Druid wants to note that shooting while spin jumping adds a couple of horizontal pixels to reach the next platform without doing a morph glide. Morph gliding is a technique where you basically spam morph and unmorph in midair, and it kind of resets or slows down your downwards velocity, um, allowing you to glide over further distances than Samus would normally be able to travel. So shooting while spin jumping extends it just barely, so it doesn't slow you down or take quite as much space or time as a morph glide does. Using a diagonal bomb jump and morph glide to reach this alpha without grabbing the spider ball. There's the zip I mentioned earlier, literally hopping through the entire temple, not having to go over it, not having to go through it. Well, not having to go through the inside rooms, but just teleporting through since that's all one giant room. And zips have some kind of weird limitations on them, but because of the way that really big room works, it's kind of a unique case. You can just jump all the way through it like that. Yeah, the zip saves 14 seconds total according to Druid. One tactic that you'll see and hear used to speed up a lot of time is trying to navigate the alphas to move back towards the entrance of these rooms. This one doesn't really do it because he's so far off to the right side of the platform. But on that previous one, you can see he was pushing it towards the entrance so he could be gaining some time while killing it. Yeah, even in an RTA run, that zip is a pretty safe strat because, as text notes, you save time with it even if it takes you like 4 tries to actually pull it off. So now we're going into the Ancient Guardian fight. Um, this is brand new to Metroid 2. Doc programmed it in, added it. This is kind of the first point in the game where it really throws you for a loop and says, yeah, this is going to be a little different, but bombs do some crazy damage. And that is unfortunately the end of the current theory TAS. What we have right here, which I'll restart in just a second, is is community update 143, doing a Metroid sweep in fusion mode. I believe this is with the Extreme Lab Metroids enabled. So, in one of the more recent community updates, I believe version 1.4, one of the previous project leads added basically a multiplier on the number of larva Metroids in the lab, dependent upon your difficulty, or on a toggle that you can turn on called Extreme Lab Metroids. Druid has opted for whichever setting causes 46 larva Metroids to show up, which is insane because their freeze timers in AM2 are not very long. Yes, it's a major change to the game. I believe the original only has. I don't think fusion mode on itself is 47. I'm pretty sure this is with Extreme Lab Metroids enabled. But the base game only has, I think it's around 10 or 7 larva Metroids in the lab. So this is about 4 times as much, which is insane to do. So this room's a fun strat because Druid opts to activate all of the Metroids. They won't start flying at you until you've basically gotten near them and trigger them the first time. Very similar to Zero Mission, and just kind of loops them around, pulls out a couple, and takes them out. And that is the end of our showcase. So thank you very much. First off, to Druid for doing such fantastic gameplay, recording it, sharing it with all of us. Absolutely can't wait to see the finished theory task. It's going to be a blast. Wish you luck in finishing that and in the rest of your speedrunning endeavors. I'd also like to thank Dr. M64, Saber, and all the rest of the people who made AM2R possible. It's a phenomenal game, an amazing testament and tribute to the Metroid series. And we're incredibly grateful that you guys put in literally 10 to 15 years of your life to make this possible. Also, want to thank the Fangame Marathon organizers for giving us the opportunity here to have all this. It's been a blast. I've enjoyed stopping in to watch when I can get some time off work, and hope to see you guys around.
Thank you for the showcase, dude. That's great.
Absolutely our pleasure. Drew did all the work. I'm just talking.
It's okay. Well, if you weren't here, there wouldn't have been at the showcase, so you can take some credit. All right. Well, up next, we've got actually some more Metroid TAS showcasing from Zerclips. So we are going to transition over, and I'm very quiet, and we'll get that going. So you have a good one, dude. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for having us.